So there's my parts. Got my two-piece cabin filter, my oil filter, and then the giant air filter. Okay, so apart from the ramps, the oil, the filters, the container for catching the oil, and some cloths, these are the tools I used. I had a 27mm spanner, although 27mm socket would be ideal. I had a little 8mm ratchet spanner, just made things a bit easier than doing the air filter housing. Screwdriver, a short adjustable spanner, which I used along with a 27mm spanner for taking the oil filter housing off. It's just awkward place, but yeah, get a socket. Wrench, a few different adjustments and extensions, and I've got a 21mm socket for the sump bolt. I've got a 7 and 8mm sockets, and a piece of wood which I used, which is about, I don't know, 40 centimeters long, 35, something like that, which I used to wedge the housing up the cover underneath the sump upwards to stop any oil catching on it. This is what I used to catch the oil. Just like an old protein powder tub with the top of it cut off, and then I've got an old oil 5 litre can with the bottom cut off, which then it just uses a funnel then to pour this away into another 5 litre container, so we can take that down the recycling place. You can see I've got it up on ramps to start with. My driveway is on a bit of a slope towards the garage door, so driving up the ramps, it's still pointing upwards a little bit, but it's not far off horizontal, just enough to lie underneath it. Okay, we're going to start taking the cover off the air filter box. There's 4 7mm bolts, one there, one down there, and one there. So let's do that first. Lift the back up and that slides out. So now we've got to take the casing out to get to the oil filter. I believe this is held on by this bolt down here. It's an 8mm bolt, and then you've got another 8mm bolt here, and then the casing has a couple of bits which kind of push into what's underneath, so you just got to be aware that you'll pull in this corner up here and also over this side, I believe. unclip the little air intake pipe from the casing. And hopefully just manoeuvre a few bits out of the way. There we go. So those are the two bits that hold it in from underneath. And the oil filter is hidden below all these rubber pipes. You can just see it down there, the case that you need to unscrew. Pain in the ass. So this is the cover underneath the car for getting to the sump drain bolt. There is a plastic screw in there which you just unscrew a bit, and then you have to prise it out with a screwdriver. And I think there's supposed to be something there as well, but it's not on my car. So once both of them are out, you just slide the whole thing and it comes undone, or opens up, and then you can see, if I can get the camera far enough away, you can see the sump drain bolt there. Okay, so what I've done, because I haven't done an oil change on this car before, because the cover naturally hangs quite low, so I've tucked an old cloth at the front side of the bolt towards the front of the car, in case it somehow runs on top of the cover. And then I just got a piece of wood and wedged it so it pushes the cover right up. Otherwise the cover's kind of hanging down here, and then it's more likely to catch the edge of the cover and, you know, just run on top of the cover. So yeah, I've done that. So I probably won't film me undoing the bolt because I'll be using two hands and I'll have gloves on. So I've got that pouring out. That's a 21mm socket on the sump plug. I'd heated the car up a little bit beforehand, just moving it and then having it run in while I was trying to get up on the ramps, so the oil should be a bit thinner, should run out a bit easier. According to some of the oil websites, it's supposed to be, I think, 3.8 litres off the top of my head. I'll double check that again, but I believe it's 3.8. So while that's draining, I have to see how I can get to this oil filter, which is in a really awkward place. You see the cap there in the distance. Okay, to get to this oil filter housing, I think it's going to be easier to undo this and try and swivel this little intake hose out of the way, because there's just too many hoses in the way. So to do that, you have to unscrew this Jubilee clip, and to get to that you've got to pull the engine cover off, which is quite simple on this car. It's just like connected, sort of pushes into place in a few different places. So I started with the far right corner and just worked my way around, feeling it popping out of its enclosure. So then you can move that out of the way. That moves out of the way quite easily. I'm not going to disconnect the other hoses. I'm just going to let it sit up here out of the way. So the other things in a way look like coolant hoses. So I'm not going to move them out of the way. Hoping there's enough play in them to be able to get the cap off and the filter out. You can see it a bit clearer now. Try to wedge enough cloth as I can underneath. Try and catch any oil. It's actually a 27mm socket or spanner you need for the housing. Fortunately I don't have a socket, so I've only got a spanner, so I've loosened it. So hopefully it should come off easy now. So the way I managed to get to it, you can see my 27mm spanner. It's pretty big. So what I did was put the ring end on the oil filter housing lid, but had the slope of the spanner, so it took it down rather than to the side, otherwise there's more pipe work in the way. Yeah, so if you have the spanner off at that angle, there's enough room to loosen it. That spanner's too long, there's no room, so I'm going to try this smaller adjustable spanner now that it's loose. Okay, so you can see, we probably can't, inside the housing, or inside the housing, there's a little circular bit at the bottom where this is supposed to slot into, so you have to make sure you align that properly when you put it back in. You can see I've got the new filter in. The old one, I was a bit reluctant about pulling it and breaking something. Because it's all plastic. So I found if you twist and pull at the same time, it came out alright. So I'm going to make sure I line that back up. I've changed the seal that comes with the filter, which is there. Make sure that's not twisted, and let's screw it back in. So to get mine lined up, I started with that little bit that needs to go into the hole. I started with it further anti-clockwise than it needed to be, and just kept tapping it. And you can feel the lid didn't want to go on. Just keep turning it clockwise really slowly, just keep tapping until it goes a little bit further, and then that means that little bit that sticks out has gone into the hole like it's supposed to. But it seemed to do up a lot quicker than it, a lot less time than it did to undo. But there's no gap between the lid and the housing, so it feels pretty tight now. It's only so tight you can do a plastic lid. So I've just done it hand tight, and I'm going to get myself a 27mm socket for next time. Okay, so let's reassemble the airbox. So let's attach this hose back on first. I won't tighten it up yet, make sure the alignment's correct first. Just tipped out some little bits that are in the housing. push those two bits in the two furthest corners. They slot in. Click this hose back in. Slot this hose back in to the box. I've left one of the screws there, so screw that back in. Let's tighten this Jubilee clip up. Let's put the new air filter in. I don't think it has to go in any particular way. Oh no, there's a little bit of plastic here. I think that must go at the bottom. Got myself put a new copper washer on the sump plug. So I put the sump plug back in. Just cleaned it up a little bit where it's a bit messy around the hole. And lower this back down. Remove my dodgy pair of pants. And then we just gotta fill it up now. So yeah, it says 3.8 on websites I've looked at. Probably best to check yourself. What I will do is measure how much oil has come out and use that as a starting point in case there's still some oil in there. I don't want to overfill it, so yeah, it's probably best bet. Let's tip this into a 5 litre container and then measure how much is in there. So I ended up with it being 3.5 litres that had been drained out. So I put a 3.5 back in. I suppose everyone's got their own opinions on what to use. This one was recommended on whichever oil site I went to. So yeah, there we are. I'm sure there's plenty of different oils you can use. So now I've just got to take it off the ramps and do the pollen filters. Okay, for the pollen filter, in the passenger footwell, if you pull off this cover, which is sort of under the dash in the centre, right as far as you can underneath the dashboard. Well, you need to take this cover off underneath the glove box. It just pulls off pretty easy. And then you've got 2 Phillips screws over here. You undo them, and then you can pull the cap off the pollen filter housing. You can see loads of crap in there. So it's a bit tricky to get to. You can almost do a line on your back. So I think you can unattach it from the electrical connector and completely remove that cover out the way. I'm going to see if I can do it without doing that. I can't really film this because there's no space at all, so I'm going to clean all the crap out and see if I can pull the 2 pollen filters out. The bottom one should slide out, and then the next one you need to slide down into the first one's position and slide that out, and then you do the reverse to fit them. So there's the first one coming out. Bring the other one downwards and pull it out. Just going to note which way round they are. I'll leave them like that. So when I put the next ones in, it should be easier. Okay, so I've lined the new ones up so they're the same as the old ones. So these look really white. I don't know whether these are like charcoal ones and that's why they're grey, or whether they've just been there for so long that they've gone grey. Hard to say. So let's put them back in the same order. If I had a hoover, I'd get it in there. But unfortunately, I don't have a hoover out here. I'm gonna try and pull out as much stuff as I can. Quite a lot in there, you wouldn't really, I don't know, I wouldn't have expected that much, but yeah, see that's much just come out. That one slid in. How it stays up, I don't know. Because it keeps wanting to come back down. Okay, so I've slid it up and pushed it towards the steering wheel direction. And it seemed to stay up there, so hopefully it does while I slide the next one in. Probably worth taking this off if you can get to it. It does get in the way. First, the bottom one slid in. So yeah, you can do it without taking the cover off, but probably easier if you can get to it. So I just gotta screw that back in now. Not really sure what holds on this cover underneath the glove box. Seems to just be the 2 clips that are just right underneath the door of the... Really bad camera work, but so there's the glove box. So So it seems to just be held in by 2 clips. You just line up the ducts where the hot air comes out of, and it seems to stay there fine. And this last bit to this clip here slots into the housing that you've just taken the front off, the pollen housing. Then you just clip that in and it goes in nice and easy. So that's taken me quite a while to do really, mainly because the oil filter housing is a real pain in the ass to get to. Definitely get yourself a socket for that instead of using spanners and adjustable spanners. But I mean, the rest of it's pretty straightforward. It's a bit different to my normal E46 videos, but I've got a Mazda 3 which I use for as my sensible commuting car, even though the fuel consumption is loads worse than it's supposed to be. But there we are. I will do a video at some point doing like a review of the Mazda 3. But yeah, this is just the servicing, air filter, pollen filter, oil filter, new oil. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Cheers, bye.